Anyway, to get started though, long story short, he needs this letter from the city. So I'd like you guys to, you're going to go ahead to sign this and let me get started.
Is this something that could be done in any other sites that may qualify to?
Yeah, they're looking at 2 more. And I'll, as those folks choose to do something, go through the same process. Yeah, it was about a month ago that I had a meeting, trying to get your prospective property owners and paid them.
And this will just be a private deal between ABM and Citizen. Would there be any funds that would be required for the city to put up during this?
The city's only involvement, and I'm not sure how much acreage is there, but the city's only involvement is that he needed a zone or something to do what he's got in mind. I'm not sure what he's doing. Any other thoughts?
Well, it sounds like a no-brainer if it's going to allow ABM to help one of our citizens clean up their parking and make our community cheaper and cleaner, and it doesn't cost us anything. That's pretty self-evident.
Oh, yeah. The other item I've got that's not on here in minutes, this is the last minute deal, but it's something I'm talking with Betty, often in the county about, and Debbie, which does the payroll, is going from 52 pay periods to 26. Moving the payroll from every week to every week. The idea behind it being that the administration proposed the payroll would be cheaper than this payroll. It would free Debbie up to do some other things because she wouldn't be doing payroll every week. What my idea on it is one, to save some money, but two, since everyone's a tester on the city employee personal budgets are tested to weekly paychecks, if you guys are okay with it, give them a start time of when it's going to start, say 3 months out or so, give them time to make adjustments for their own personal budgets. Most employers that I know of pay every 2 weeks. Does anybody have any opposition to that? We got to go on.
I mean, it makes sense. I don't want to put any of our employees in any undue burden, but given a 3-month buffer zone, it does give time to maybe allocate, plan, and get ready for that first week without a paycheck before you get the big.
Yeah. Do you think 3 months is enough time?
Well, I mean, that would be a question I'd have to ask. Would anybody who's an employee, would that harm your personal finances in any shape, form, or fashion if we went to bi-weekly or twice they're paying every 2 weeks on the payroll?
Could be, yeah, every 2 weeks. There'd be 2 months out of the year that would be 3 pay periods. Just because it's the way it falls. Of course, nobody would be getting paid less, nobody would be getting paid more. Nobody would be paying more taxes, nobody would be paying less taxes. It's all the same. When you do get paid, you just get it. And then you have to skip a week.
Is this what we're wanting to vote on tonight?
Yeah, not necessarily. I just wanted to get the ball rolling.
My only thought is if we were to vote on it tonight, that may be just a little bit premature. This would give us a 2-week period where we could talk to our departments and get responses back and see if there's any negative feedback or anything. I don't foresee there being any because it is fairly logical when you're getting paid the exact same amount. It's just that we're able to save a little bit on county cost
Yeah.
by doing it this way. And there is a price associated with writing a check.
There is. And if there were ever a point in time where we went back to contracting the payroll out, we should have been in-house, we would save on that. That's in half. Okay. So I'm going to make a decision next meeting. I wanted to remind you, March 13th, Chamber sponsored State of the City. What they're going to add this time is like a town hall component on the end of it. Once we get past the initial 20 minutes, the idea will be moving to a format sort of like a candidate forum where we all participate in. And take questions. Take questions from the folks that are there. Not for hours on end, maybe 30 minutes or so. Of course, they'll have to, there won't be my only question was that there might be a venue where there's questions that shouted from the back or blah, blah, blah. The person asking the question will come forward in front of the crowd. Sorry.
Was this a chamber idea or yours? Joint. Now, the last one we had was in August, is that correct? Okay, and we're doing it in March for what purpose?
Moving it up, May's sort of late to do it. Really, I'd preferably rather do it earlier in the year, but it's just not the way the chamber schedule is. January is a terrible month to do it. And there's like ball games, basketball, that kind of stuff wrapping up in February, and it's sort of a fact. So
I wish we talked about this prior because I have a conflict for that 13th. And I'm just curious, how expensive, are we catering this event or is there an expense to it?
Well, it'd be a night that the devotion could be in.
Okay, but that's all the expense there is?
Yeah. As far as that. Unless they plan food. Now, last year there was.
Yeah, we're gonna have food, the chamber's going to pay.
How expensive is that catering bill?
Should be around 500. Between 350 and 500, wasn't it?
My only thoughts on this is, I'm like Councilman Holt, where I wish there was a heads up. My sister is she has an aneurysm, and she's having surgery that night, so I won't be able to be there either. And since it's, centered around the administration, I would think that we would have gotten a better heads up. I'm not speaking against the chamber. The chamber's been doing an awesome job. But I do, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, the way I feel that our job is, it's to stand behind the city and not to promote ourselves. I feel like this is somewhat trying to promote ourselves. Any resident of Rainsville, I feel like this is the workshop and the meeting, that's what that's set up for, to come and speak to us, ask questions. I wish more people came to the meetings and asked questions about what was going on or why we made decisions on certain things. I feel like this money, not to tell the chamber what to do, but since it was a joint effort, and I feel like it was necessary the first year, but this administration has a long way to go, and I don't feel like we're ready to put ourselves in that position where we should be working a little bit more than putting ourselves in front of the city. We've got Youth Day we could put that money towards. We've got, we could do something for the emergency personnel, recognizing certifications that they're doing. Maybe the chamber could put on something like that, where I know a lot of them get their training and a lot of certifications that some of us never bring up hardly. We could recognize them. We've got the library. I mean, there's just tons of stuff that I would rather the money be put towards other departments in the city than everybody at this table. And I don't mean to speak out of turn towards the chamber. I know where you guys are coming from, but just personally, I mean, I would like to stand behind the city and for everybody to come to the council meetings and the workshops to ask us questions instead of sitting up there on the stage and campaigning all over it, you know. It's kind of how it feels, and this is not campaigning, this is work time. And I don't feel like any of us should be campaigning during this period. So, I hope, please don't think that's anything against the chamber, that's just, because y'all are doing an awesome job. That's just my personal feelings. So.
Any other thoughts?
I had asked the Heritage Committee if they would be willing to put together some sort of display or a slideshow. And I believe we're going to try to put together a slideshow that while people are filling in just old photographs of Rainsville being played on the projector and maybe display some of the artifacts that we've been able to collect, really to get the word out about what we're trying to accomplish with the Heritage Committee, how we're trying to capture the shared history of this community, and hoping that it may bring on a little bit of enthusiasm about what we're doing, and it might help us to get more people to participate in this. That's one of the things that we were wanting to try to do at the state of the city. And I think that would be a good place to put some of this stuff out for public consumption.
And also, cities should have some information about them too on the Chevy's Bridge project. So, hopefully that will be I just wanted to mention, upcoming annexation, mainly subdivision of off Kirk Road. I'm pretty sure all of you are aware of all in the moment that is coming down the pipe. It's a road that, according to some folks, is up to specs. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, who's talking most of them, they're pretty well unanimous thing. If they want to get into the city, it's just a matter of the petition. Under all.
Where is this subdivision? I don't know about it.
Is the one on the right? Yeah, Kirk Road. Left of Kirk, all to the right.
There's three houses there now. There's one that owns property. This one
Okay.
they haven't built it.
Is that when you're going on the right? Okay.
Now, just so I'm correct on this, is what the benefits and the advantages and disadvantages to the city would be. One of the disadvantages was that we would now have to maintain that road. However, the flip side is one of the advantages are that the ad valorem taxes would come to us instead of the county on a yearly basis. Is there anything else in there that I'm missing as far as benefits and pros and cons for the city to this? It would increase our population by 15, 20 at most.
But it's pretty hard to say, because the census is
Always fluctuating.
How many more lots are there in that subdivision that you feel?
I think there's 5, 6.
So that's going to be a place.
I guess they're building on 2 to 3 acres. Is that what the lot is?
I think they're bigger lots. Best I remember, I've been over there, but I have to remember.
And I don't think this would have any impact on our ISO rating. Because that would, in my opinion, be minimal. We just add 3 structures right now.
Also tonight, I'd like to get from you an up or down vote on advertising to partially vacate the Hollywood between Glenn Jones and Kerry Chandler. These are 2 homes on Rose Street. Rose Street goes down. Street, which is next 75 and Church Street. This is something that they are, two property owners that are already taking care of the alleyway. In fact, everyone next to the alleyway is pretty well taken care of. They're each wanting a portion of alleyway attached to their property to be theirs, which is 7.5 feet on each side, 15 feet across. It doesn't really affect any of the other property owners on that alleyway. There's no utilities involved. And they're willing to pay all the costs that it takes to get that done. Zone board, zone chair took a look at it and informed me that it was not particularly a zoning issue. Because the zoning would not change.
This would be no expense to us.
No expense. Of course, the city would have to do this advertising, but they have agreed to reimburse the city whatever it costs to run the advertising. Of course, there's a bill associated with St. Philip's, and they pay that as well. So, no cost to the city.
Have we mentioned to them that we may want to access a vacation right-of-way fee? We do have the authority to do so, and that vacation right-of-way fee is equal to fair market value of the land.
What would it be?
It would have to be appraised.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
I'm not really comfortable with us discussing this on these terms. I would prefer these two individuals come and approach us. One being your uncle, you're not supposed to be bringing it up because it benefits him.
Well, I don't plan to vote on it.
Well, I know, but you're not even supposed to be bringing it up. And I wouldn't have a problem with it. I'm just going to give my opinion. I wouldn't have a problem with it if it was the whole strip. I may be grossly mistaken on this, but I don't see this being any different than paving a road. You know, everybody down that strip wants to pay for Sam Phillips, and I don't know what expenses are involved in this, and everybody gets their part of the land. I think that makes more sense. But to do this little piece of property just because two individuals want to, nothing against these two individuals, I just think everybody needs to be involved on that strip.
Well, the city's going to be out of money because I seriously doubt we can get all the property owners to agree to pitch in and pay for Mr. Phillips' fee.
I'm not suggesting that the city pay anything towards it. I'm saying that if you can't get everybody on that strip, then it can't be done. Just like paving, you can't get everybody on the road to put forth their fee.
Well, let me just get this straight. One of the property owners is mine. That shouldn't factor in the decision of whether or not we let pass through what two property owners are consenting to do.
It's not at all.
Every other thing that comes before this body, that the property owners are in 100% agreement, is probably let's pass through. It's probably about a year ago, we had a consent form that we needed to sign to exempt a piece of property from the ban on mobile homes, other than property zoned agricultural.
That's
And
fine.
there was no issue at that time.
Okay.
Because the main reason being, all the property owners agreed with that. You know what I'm talking about, Mr. Brown. Gary?
Yeah.
I have absolutely no problem with your uncle or caretaker, but that's just what I'm saying. It is unethical for you to be bringing it up, is what I'm saying. So I would prefer for these two individuals to address the council on this and for us to go forward. And then, like I said before, I may be grossly mistaken, but I'm viewing this the same as paving. It would make more sense that the whole everybody in the strip be on the same page, not just these two individuals, because, I mean, the way it is, it's pretty much a square, is it not? And it just goes all the way down, and we're just doing this one little piece. I mean,
Well, it's 15 feet wide. I'm not sure the length of the roads to.
and again, this is an area that I am not very good in, so if,
Are you also proposing that the city start taking care of that alleyway?
if we need to, and that's what we're supposed to be doing, then yes, and we should be taking care of that alleyway. I mean, I'm not saying that the city should not take care of it. That's just,
There'll be some expense involved in that, taking some trees down, edges.
well, I'm definitely not gonna get cornered into voting towards this. This is what I've said, this is my opinion on it, that these two individuals, whom I have absolutely no problem with, but I would feel more comfortable if they approached the council. And I think that's what we asked last time. I just want to do it the right way.
That's not what was asked. What was asked is that it go before the zoning board.
And then it comes before the
And the zoning
council.
chair tells me this is not a zoning issue.
And then it comes before the council.
That's right, because this governing body makes the final call.
Exactly. And that's what I'm asking for.
So what you're telling me is we can't get another one vote tonight on something that's cost the city nothing. A strip of property that the property owners are already taking care of.
I'm not disagreeing with that, Mayor. I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
To add to this conversation, I too favor the opinion if we're going to vacate that alleyway, vacate the entire alleyway. There was an original purpose for that alleyway, and it still may serve some purpose in the future. And if we vacate a portion of it, then it will never have any future purpose. So it
What would future purpose be?
well, utilities can be rerouted. For aesthetic values in Fort Payne, they run a bunch of their utilities through the alleyways. And it also creates a redundant route into the property. A lot of the individuals in Fort Payne have garages that will have doors on both sides. They'll come in the alleyway, pull into the back of their garage, and then when they leave straight out the front. Now,
Use that alleyway.
it does have some possible future use.
So we could clear the alleyway and pave it.
Well, I mean, that is a possibility if it ever came to that as aesthetic wise. And it also would allow like your garbage pickup. You could just have both houses feed right there in the middle, and it could expedite the garbage pickup in some short, shape, form, or fashion if that ever was something we did. But that's just possible future uses of that alleyway. And I'm just saying, if we're going to give up a portion of it, we give up all of the future use. If that's the case, then I would be more comfortable in us looking at this as the entire alleyway, vacating it.
I'm definitely not opposed to vacating the whole alleyway. I just felt like this was the best solution to keep the city from spending any money and agree to do what two consenting property owners.
We can still manage this without the city paying any money. Now, what they would need to do,
If all the property owners will consent to that.
well, that's correct, and you've got two that are consenting right now. It should be the burden upon them to get the rest of them to consent, and then once they have a consensus, come to the council and present it to us. I think that would be a better format than us, from what it looks back. I mean, if you just step back from this table and just look at this from afar, it looks like you're giving your uncle land and you're playing preferential treatment to him. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's what people from the outside are going to look and see this. And I don't want to think anything like that of any of us citizens. I want people to think highly of us, and I think it would be more advantageous if we were to use that manner of approaching this, having the whole alleyway look at being vacated and then have them approach us. That way, nobody can say anything that we're trying to play favorites. It takes that all out of the equation.
That's probably not going to be a reality. Those property owners are not going to consent. Why? They're already using that land. They're taking care of it. No doubt.
What is the advantage of the city to give it away?
To be, and you've got two people that live in this town that are asking, trying to go about it the right way. You didn't say, we'll incur all the costs, just be agreeable to what we're willing to do.
And I don't want to be an unagreeable council here. I mean, I will do what's best for all of our citizens of Rainsville. You know, I still go back to that point of how an outsider would look at this, how they would look at it. And
An outsider thing.
well, just outside of this room, on this council, your average citizen of Rainsville, I'm sorry, they're going to throw up red flags when it comes down to just saying that you were asking for us to give a piece of property to your uncle. That there's going to be red flags. People are going to waive over that. Now, if we do it for the whole alleyway, they can't waive those red flags. We can't say that, hey, we just gave that to Mr. Jones. No, we gave it to everybody else.
So is everybody okay with incurring some expense to vacate all of it?
No, that's not
Absolutely
what
not.
I'm saying. Why, explain to me why, and once again, I'm completely saying that I may be completely wrong in this, so I want somebody to explain to me if I'm wrong. This is the way I'm viewing it. I know one road in particular that Heidi and Jeff Brooks live on. They've been trying to get that road paved forever. And one property owner does not want to pay, I think it was $700, did not want to pay the $700 to get it paved. That means that road never got paved. So I guess that's how I'm thinking of the alleyway, is it doesn't mean that the city's going to go in there and go, okay, well, we'll just put that $700 in for that piece. Why not just approach the property owners? If they're not willing, just work with them to do it. Because to me, besides it being your uncle or what have you, put that out of your head. It doesn't make sense to me to do that one little piece. We either need to do nothing or all of it. And I may be doing this wrong, but I don't know why would we do that one little piece. That doesn't make sense to me, other than the fact that they want it that way.
Yeah.
Which I want $1 million. I don't get that either. I mean,
Well,
Are there any other outlet to that alley?
What's that?
Are there any other outlet to that alley?
On the other end. So I mean, it runs.
it goes, I mean, straight through.
It comes out of Jackson Street.
It goes straight through, but there's trees, hedges on it. It's not a clear area. The only part of it that's kept is pretty muddy.
And most of the people in that subdivision is already just like, they use it to like stay or something like that. So really, are there reasons for them to have to just to divide it out, take the alleyway out if they're using it anyway? I mean, I've got property in that subdivision, that's the reason I kind of been listening on it, but on my part, we just use it right up to our neighbor's fence or whatever, we don't worry about it. It's just part of the land, it just holds the earth together, you know, so you just go ahead and use it anyway, even though it is 15 foot, that is a cease. So, we've always done that. We want those houses built in that whole subdivision. But that's just the way we've always done it.
Well, the reason he's doing it is he's wanting to use it, and he's not comfortable using the property that doesn't own it. That's the reason. Moving on. Rainsville tornado sirens currently set off from the dispatch office and the police department. This is just an issue that's brought up to me from the county EMA. The county EMA course, monitors the weather, and I call it their bumper and the activity building. They set off those alarms for all over the county, city of Fort Payne, and the ones in Allen County and small towns. They're open to and willing to handle Rainsville's as well. Now, I do not have a dollar figure as far as, maintenance and all that kind of stuff on Rainsville. I think we've got this 7 or 4. I think it's 7.
Got one at Hilltop, one at the end of Georgia Wallace, I know.
One in the school, one at City Hall.
I think there's 5.
Five.
Five.
Fire.
They're willing to take on that responsibility. And as far as, alerting people and setting them off, they appear, unless I'm looking at it wrong, they appear to be the best equipped as far as to have the news, the weather first before anybody else. I think it's a pretty good idea.
How much do you think it costs us if we're gonna have to maintain? Did they give you?
Cost to maintain.
Yeah, or if we give it to them, or they don't maintain
No,
it on their own?
we wouldn't really be giving it to them. I don't understand it that way because some of them on private property. Could be a complication with that. I said on city property.
Yeah, the one at the school, the on school.
It'd be complicated to sort of give them. It'd really be just sort of.
Are they
deal
just,
where you just, when they need to be set off, they get set off with the rest of the county.
Am I understanding this correctly? We're wanting to take the management and control of them and switch it to EMA. However, we will retain ownership and it will be our responsibilities to maintain them in good working order.
is there a problem with the way they're being done now?
I'm not aware of one. They brought it to my attention that Rainsville was the only one that didn't participate with the EMA and with the county. So
At this point in time, I guess this will be a question to you, Chief Centers, or it may go to the fire department. Whose responsibility is it right now to sound the sirens when we're under severe weather?
Dispatch.
The dispatch? Would there be any negative consequences to us moving that responsibility from dispatch to EMA?
I don't know. We got, our response might delay that some, but like you said, the weather's watched by them, and we have the same weather that they have, as far as in the dispatch, but if they would help, I guess, I don't know, maintain them, or help, we could get something all the way out of them as far as setting them off, I don't know. It would make no difference.
My thoughts on this are pretty simple. I just want to make sure they go off and warn the citizens before there is severe weather. And as long as that happens, I'm going to be happy.
My only thing was, as far as fire department, if our dispatchers, if there's severe weather, then there's several things that could be going on at that time. If they're at the EMA, that's what they do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's, bring up that point.
Which that's, of course, no problem with it. I don't think you got no issue with EMA. As far as they're there, yes. I don't know.
I'll just be curious on the fee, what we have to pay.
Were they wanting a management fee?
They're just trying to make it more uniform.
Okay. And that's probably a good thing.
It's been costing us, and it still will, because we're still going to have to maintain it. If we may have to do some upgrades, if we're starting to manage these from somewhere else.
Well,
we may have to do some kind of upgrades to it.
I asked Anthony, I said, now, are you talking about if they get switched over, are you talking about upgrades and money out of the city's pocket to get it in compliance with whatever your system is that works? He told me no. He said, no, there's no, he said, we can handle no problem.
Are they going to do the maintenance and then bill us, or are we still going to have to start doing maintenance? And the maintenance being,
That's a good question.
the maintenance being, like usually, about every year, we have to replace batteries in some of them out of the 6 or 7 that we have. Battery connections goes bad. You know, there's just maintenance that you have to do to them. Sometimes one gets hit by lightning, you have to go in there and do some repair work to them. So they are a little bit of.
One good thing about them handling it is, of course, I believe they're the first to know about the weather. And then they're in turn part of the process that's relaying it to the folks. But they've got the capability of, if there was a tornado running in DeKalb County, and let's say it's in the south part of the county, they've got the capability of not setting the sirens off in the northern part of the county to, let's say, false alarm. I thought that was a good thing. If you watch it on TV, and again, the sirens are for folks that are not in their home, they're for people out and about, you know. But I thought that was a good point. If there's a tornado warning for your county, you're thinking, well, that's a pretty big area. Anyway, if y'all are okay with that, I'll proceed with that. Probably need to go directly into the meeting, and then we'll just pick up from there. Lost track of time. The meeting will come to order. Graham?
Present.
Holt, here. Ledbetter?
Here.
Freeman? Here. Lincoln? Here. You'll touch on the minutes for a second.
February 18, 2014 regular council meeting. A motion is made to approve the minutes, approve the February 3rd, 2014 regular council meeting minutes as presented and read by the clerk. Motion carried with all in favor. Item 1, a motion was made to accept Josh Ashley's resignation from the wastewater treatment plant. Motion carried with all in favor. Item 2, a motion was made to hire Brad Willingham as operator trainee on the caveat that he passes the operator certification test within 6 months. Motion carried, all in favor. Item 3, a motion was made to add operator trainee to the pay scale as a full-time position at $10 an hour. Motion carried, all in favor. Item 4, a motion was made to add a part-time relief operator to the pay scale at $25 an hour. This position will not have benefits. It must be at least a grade 4 operator. Motion carried, all in favor. Item 5, a motion was made to purchase 16 LED Christmas lights at a cost of $5,268. Motion carried, all in favor. Item 6, a motion was made to purchase about 10 yards of concrete for the new playground at the Global Green for $1,000. Motion carried, all in favor. Item 7, a motion was made to give Fire Chief Thomas Ridgway the authority to purchase equipment for the new ladder fire truck up to $5,000. Motion carried, all in favor, and this will be paid out of the fire fund. A motion is made to pay the monthly bills as presented by City Treasurer. Motion carried, all in favor. At 5:55 p.m., a motion is made to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation. Motion carried unanimously. At 6:21, a motion was made to return to regular session with no action taken. Motion carried unanimously. A motion was made to adjourn at 6:25. Motion carried unanimously.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second. Motion by Graham to accept the minutes as presented, second by Freeman. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. As I mentioned in the workshop, we got this letter addressed to Mr. Norris, Larry Norris of the Alabama Department of Environmental Management. It is for a citizen here in Rainsville that's got property and wanting to participate in their program. And like authorization to sign this letter for the gentleman and let him proceed with the state program.
I'll put that in the form of a motion, so I would like to move that we empower the mayor to sign the letter from ADM.
I second that.
280.
To ADM.
Motion by Graham, second by Ledbetter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carried. We talked about moving the decision on pay periods to the next meeting. I'd like to, the I did move the management, I think that's a good way to phrase it, the management of the tornado sirens. I'd like to, that to be brought up for a vote. I think it's a good thing, and good thing for the folks in Rainsville.
I do too, and I think Willie Knight brings up the best little comment there that kind of makes me weary. But before moving forward, I would like to know if there's any costs and what they are before I vote on something. But I'm good with everything else. I'd just like to know that before we move forward on it.
League convention is coming up in May. If any of y'all are going, of course the city's got a vote in their elections. And you just got the paperwork to appoint a delegate to cast that vote. If anybody's interested in that.
Gets you a nice little different color on your name tag.
Yeah, you get a pink sticker.
I think so.
Are you wanting that sticker?
He wants the pink sticker.
I'm short. I need something that makes me look manly. Pink sticker won't do that.
If you
Have you seen your coffee cup lately?
meeting and then you vote at the hammock meeting, I think hammock one's gonna get a yellow sticker, so.
I don't care. If y'all want to designate me as one of them, I would do it. If there's,
You'll go into the meeting.
Yes.
League convention.
and I think we will have some other ones in attendance, so.
Anybody opposed to Joey? Actually, is anybody opposed to Joey being the delegate to both of these?
You gonna talk to anybody when it's down there?
Is he gonna say
Can we put a muzzle on him before it does start?
There's no doubt, he's gonna talk something.
Oh, dear.
There's not a lot of debate in the actual meeting portion. All you do is basically say aye one or two times.
Are you gonna say
Just
present?
get in a special place. We'll all be at the back and you'll be at the front.
We'll sit up front with you.
That's all I
You
want.
can't, you have to sit up there with me.
Members only.
Members only, I say
Excuse
Joey.
me. No, Joe's good.
Let's, we'll put that in the form of
I make a motion that we appoint Councilman Graham as our voting representative to the league convention and also to the AMIC membership.
I second.
Motion by Holt to appoint Graham as the voting delegate at the league convention annual meeting and then the AMIC membership meeting. Second by Ledbetter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Any abstentions?
Oh, I abstained since it was on me.
Motion carries. The only other item I've got is the vacation time, primarily for the police and fire department. It's, by all accounts, proven to be a real issue, especially with the fire department, and it's being compounded by the award of the new grant and the requirement that the fire department be fully staffed within 90 days of getting awarded that. The way I understand it, that 90-day clock started ticking on February the 14th. So we've got some time. But Thomas still has a vacant captain position with the fire department. And it was a meeting ago, or a couple meetings ago, that the police and fire department addressed the council. And, you know, I feel like this is an issue that we need to get resolved and move on to something else. Are there any thoughts as far as the resolution of this? You know, to me, the basis, the real basis of the argument is that in the first tier employment, 1 to 5 years, 1 to 3 years of employment, the police and fire across the board are getting 40 hours of vacation time, just like the 40-hour employees. Of course, you all know that they work more than 40 hours a week. And so when there's an employee in that tier of employment, they're not getting a full week of vacation when the rest of the 40-hour employees are. I think that the answer to some of this is probably in the handbook to break the emergency, and of course that includes the communications department, the dispatchers, break the emergency and non-emergency into. The more I look at this, the more I think about it and study it, it's hard to compare employees that are staffing departments that work 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, and departments that work 24/7. Because the 40-hour departments, there are actual off days. The 24/7 departments, there's not. And, you know, you run into all kinds of issues as far as scheduling and things like that. For instance, if someone calls in sick at City Hall, everyone there just sort of picks up the slack and the day goes on. If someone calls in sick at the police department or the fire department, it's not as simple. Someone has to fill that shift. Does anybody have any other thoughts as far as bumping that vacation time up? Is it something we can all agree on? That if you've got one group of employees that work 40 hours a week, and in that first tier of employment, they're getting 40 hours of vacation, that's 1 week off vacation, one week of vacation. Another group of employees you've got over here that work over 40 hours a week. Fires more than police. But as a group, emergency personnel, all working more than 40 hours a week if they're full-time. 40 hours a week vacation time is not a week off. If they're going to take a week off, they're going to have to use sick time to supplement that. We all agree on that.
Actually, the 40-hour week gets 9 days off. So when you say a week, it sounds like you're getting 7, but technically they get
2 weekends. Yeah.
I had a very good conversation with Willie Mack. And Willie, you're gonna be a good chief one day. You really are. You're just so down to earth, and I can just hear in your voice how proud you are to be a firefighter. And I don't want you going anywhere. I want you staying in Rainsville. And I think what made this whole process complicated is Rainsville needed so much in the fire department, and it had to happen fast, and it happened in 1 year, and it was a big impact on the budget. But that's not their fault that we needed it. And with them, this wouldn't have been a problem with the 40 hours because they work 40 hours. So I can see how, to others it might look like, well, 56 sounds like a lot, but at the end of the day, they don't get to take a whole week's vacation, and why go and drive 6 hours to the beach when you can stay a couple of nights? So, I still stand behind the fire department. I stand behind the police department as well, but I believe we should up their hours. But at the same time, I would like all the council members to talk and to give their opinions so that the majority can rule and we can move forward.
Does anyone oppose the 40? For just not the whole handbook. I'm not talking about the whole handbook, but just this portion, breaking it into emergency and non-emergency. Is anyone opposed to that?
I think when we came up with the handbook, we said there would have to be, as we were moving forward, it would be a living document that we would have to make changes to as we went along. And we've come into a roadblock or a bump in the road that this needs to be addressed. I don't think it was anybody's intention to cut them to 40 hours a week and that be it. I think their intent was to give them a week of vacation. And that's what I tried to tell several people that I spoke with, you know, give us a moment to fix this. As we go forward, there are going to be things we have to address and have to fix, and how we do that in the handbook, we need to do it in the proper channels, whatever ordinance, resolution, however is the best way with our attorney to do that. But, I mean, I don't think anybody at this table wants any of our employees to be mistreated, period. And it's been painted that way, and that is not the case.
So do you guys?
Painted with,
I'm sorry.
Well, it's just been alluded to that we were trying to mistreat them, and that is not the case, at least on my behalf.
No, I don't think anybody's trying to mistreat anybody. I think that when it all comes down, everybody has to look, and we have to stay within our, at least with somewhere within our budget. And that's just the way it is. I mean, and whether it's 40 hours or 42 hours or 48 or 56, we still have to stay within that budget. And we have to be at least, we try to be fair to every employee, whether it's the fire department, police department, or the other employees, you know, the ones that works 40 hours. So, you know, we have to come to some kind of agreement, sitting here at this table, to make that happen. And, I mean, I've worked on it. I'm just like y'all, I have sat down and racked my brain on, you know, trying to come up with a solution. And, you know, I don't know exactly what that is. I don't know what everybody else has got in their minds. But, you know, we're just going to throw something out and start from there and go. And so.
well, of course, I call them heavy weeks and light weeks. As you know, with their scheduling, fire goes working 3 shifts a week to 2 shifts to 3. So it's 72, 48, 72. Police goes heavy and light as well, 4 shifts, 3 shifts, 4 shifts. So it's 48, 36, and that's where those averages come from, because we're on 52 pay periods. Would there be anything wrong with erring to the side of heavy, and in that first tier of employment, giving police 48 hours, 4 shifts, calling that the equivalent of 1 work week to the 40 for the 40-hour employees, and 3 shifts, the 72 equivalent to the 40-hour employees at 40, and call them 72 a week, and call them 48 a week, and call them 40 a week.
I don't think that's necessary, because what Thomas did, and the way I understood it, is he took all of their shifts, Willie, interrupt me if I go wrong here, took all the shifts and averaged it out. They get the same paycheck every week. So if a firefighter takes a week off, he should just get exactly the same pay. If we award 72 hours, they would get more than a week.
Our pay is the same. We don't get 72
Exactly.
hours.
Right.
Even if we take vacation, our
Right.
pay stays the same.
So that's what I'm saying. If Willie takes a week and he puts in for a week, he gets exactly the same paycheck that he would. So we should just, I don't know how we would phrase it, but I don't think we should give them 72 hours, because technically they get paid for 53 hours regular, 3 hours overtime.
But one fix is 26 pay periods. Because they're going to go from 72 to 48. No longer will there be 56 average. No longer will there be, is it 42 or 43? 42 average. It will be a true hourly rate. And you can give them vacation, and they can use it just at, I mean, literally, instead of some formula of, you know, X number of hours equals this amount of time that they should have worked, this number of hours or this average of hours. Does that make any sense?
That's still not right.
If we do pay 72 hours of vacation time, on the back end of that, we're going to have to pay someone else 72 hours to work those shifts. So I think that could have an impact overall on the budget. And I know at one point in time that we had scheduled a budgetary meeting. Mother Nature intervened with it and it got postponed, in which we wanted to deal with this in a budgetary setting. I personally was hoping we was going to be able to reschedule that and do this with our accountant present, so that maybe we'd have a better, true understanding of what we're talking about and how it will impact the overall budget.
Here's, I'll interrupt, but, and I asked this question, Melissa. The budget, the impact on the budget happened a couple of years ago. Why was this not a problem last year?
Well, to be perfectly fair with you, we were getting our legs underneath us and figuring out where we are. We have a 6-member council and 5 of us were brand new. And sometimes when you're put into a situation where you're brand new at, the best thing to do the first little bit is to kind of keep quiet and observe and study and see where changes can be made in the future. And once you have a handle on that, that's later on is when you start trying to make some adjustments or changes. So in the beginning, we all just took it on face value that we're going to keep it going the same way, study and learn and see if there's some changes we can make in the future. Now that would be the reason why we did it like we did last year. Mainly we were just going off of what the prior council had done and thinking that they acted in good faith. They did. They absolutely did. But we just didn't want to steer this car into the ditch right off the bat. So we wanted to know what we were doing a little bit.
And on the budget side, you was talking about the budget, the previous council, we moved to we'd never had the 2448 like y'all got it. So it took a little while for that budget stuff to catch up, so we'd know where we were at before we could actually make see what was going on with it. Because after we got into that 2448, then Thomas wanted to hire another person, which made it to a full 6-man crew. We didn't have that many. Mm-hmm. We only had, I think when Thomas came in, we had like 5 employees. And
That was including.
yeah, that was part-time. See, they were part-time in that, so they didn't have benefits, they didn't make as much money. So we had 3, I think it was 3 full-time and 2 part-time. And then when that budget really caught up, then it took it a little bit of time, plus you had that extra person in there. That's when it really showed up. And then with the vacation time, so none of us knew about the vacation time problem. Well, there wasn't no problem because it was being took care of, and we didn't know it. So that came out in the handbook deal.
It was being took care of as
Well, I don't know. Because some of them said, well, they were getting, 56 hours, if they took off a week, they was getting 56 hours. See, it wasn't in the handbook that way. It was in the handbook at 40.
But the handbook, we did not address 24, 48 hour shifts.
That's exactly right, and it didn't address the police officers, but the police officers getting 42. So now we've got to straighten this all back out, somehow.
Well, I mean,
And I want to get it straightened out. I want to get this behind.
if you're in the fire department and police department, you're just talking about being fair. If you're on our side of it, it doesn't look fair.
Oh, I know.
I mean, when an 8-hour employee can take, like Melissa said, take 9 days off, taking 1 week, we can't do that.
I know.
And we can't even plan a week to go somewhere, a specific week, because we got to plan around our short week, long week, whatnot, take our family somewhere.
Let me add too, one of the reasons that the fire department was even eligible to, or was even in the running for this volunteer grant is because per industry standard, the fire department is understaffed. I know there's been a big increase, that's easy to see, but that doesn't mean that it's not where it ultimately needs to end up, Things are just not free, it's just,
And they're doing a great job.
they're doing a great job.
Great job.
They're doing a great job.
Yeah.
But they're running as tight as they possibly can.
Let me ask,
Staffing that department 24/7, they can't do it with any less people.
Let me ask you just it may be just a very simple question. Could we phrase it 1 week and take the hours out? Would that solve the problem? If they're getting the same pay every week, would a week not be a week?
Well,
Well,
I mean, I'm just
it
asking.
it wouldn't be because Saturday and Sunday are work days, you know. 40-hour employees, and this is where it comes back to when we try to group everybody together, it just will not work, you know, because majority of the employees, the 40-hour employees, Saturday and Sunday are off days. Police and fire and dispatch, every day's a work day. Somebody's gonna be there.
Debbie, how did y'all do it before? They just put in for a week and you just cut them exactly the same paycheck as they've been getting, correct?
Okay, I began payroll when y'all began your term, so.
But I mean, it's been like that for a year, so how did you do it last year? That's how you did it?
Yes.
They put in for a week, they got exactly the same paycheck?
Yes.
How many days were they off?
Yeah, that I don't know.
Ma'am, how did it work last year when you got a
A
week
week
off?
was 3 shifts.
3 shifts.
A week was 3 shifts. And that is the, basically the standard.
Okay.
I mean, that's,
And
when you,
how many were y'all doing? How many was a week?
42 hours based on, in the way that it averages out. I mean, it was
But also-
36,
So,
48.
but 48, literally.
Correct.
Right.
48 one week, 36 another.
I'm talking about a week vacation. Somebody took a week off in your department, that was literally 48 hours. You were allowing them 4 days.
The way it works with us, we got a split day on Tuesday, and they clock in on another shift, so they got 42 hours. That's the way we've always done it. 42 hours for us is a week.
I know about the split.
I mean,
Well, let's say
But
you
if
took
somebody
off
took
a
off-
vacation, what day would you, how many days off would you get? How many shifts off would you have? 4?
if that's the way, I mean, I'm trying to.
If that's the way they felt, depending on the week that they took. Because if,
Cause you got 3 1 week, and like I said, in a short week, that's why we always said 42 hours, right down, I mean, 42 hours. Cause it does average out every week.
And I don't know how about you, because you're Monday through Friday. I'm talking about somebody that's in the shift. In a shift, if they, according to the way that was.
Is there vacation Wednesday to Wednesday?
Well,
They take off a week, Tuesday to Tuesday, I mean, it's a full.
It's 42 hours a week regardless. They're all, they work 42 hours, 36 both weeks, and then that Tuesday is a split.
Yeah.
So it's 42 hours. It's never over 42.
They're getting 48, but depending on the week that they took their vacation, they should have worked 36, or they should have worked 48, just however that fell. But they were getting 4 days.
It seems to me, though, it would be kind of easy to game the system here if it's allocated on just a week. I know, me personally, I would take my vacation on every heavy week I could. So it's complicated here. We're going to have to sit down and really put our heads on this one.
well, let's do it now.
Well, the officers, it's a week, it's 42 hours, and if you base it on that, that is a week for the police department, the 12-hour shift people. Because they do only 6 hours on Tuesday.
Yeah. So you need 48 hours.
I'm gonna throw something out,
A week, you're right, a week would be.
and argue with me if you will. But in my job, if I have a trial, I can't take off on vacation. So would it be bad for us to ask you to take the vacation on your lesser, heavier week, so it's a less of expense to fill that position?
well, I mean, here's the thing, the 40-hour employees going, see what I'm saying? If you're asking us to base our vacation, you know, the 40-hour employees can take any week they want,
Day here, day there,
any, whatever day.
8 hours here, 8 hours there,
Well,
44.
I think the point to be made on this is there's already restrictions. You've already got in place restrictions where they can only take a minimum, is your department half a shift?
Half a shift on Tuesday, 6 hours.
Well, I'm not talking about the clock-in shifts, I'm talking about if they want to take a vacation. Do you make them take a whole shift? Or half?
12 hours.
Okay. So there's already restrictions where they can't say, well, I'm leaving a couple hours early, they have to take that 2 hours or whatever. Now the regular 40-hour employees, they have that flexibility. But there again, you can't, you just can't compare, those type.
Well, I'm not trying to compare, and I agree with you. I'm just trying to meet a middle ground here, and I agree with you on that. But I guess what I'm saying is in my job, there's certain weeks that I can't, and I might have a vacation planned, and the judge may set a trial, and then I've got to reschedule. I mean, that's just part of my job.
We understand that too, but it's depending on the way our shifts fall. You know, like, for example, they can work Monday and Tuesday, off Wednesday and Thursday, and they're working Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You know, that's every other week. That's what they're gonna work. Then their short week might be Monday and Tuesday. Well, if we're understaffed and there's for whatever reason, I put in for vacation, well, we can't get it covered, then we understand, and you can't take off. So you gotta put it off for another week. You know, whereas back to the, you know, and I hate to beat the dead horse, but back to the 40 hours, Saturday, Sunday's off, next Saturday, Sunday's off for them. Well, it's not that way with us. You know, we've got shifts.
Yeah.
And then we have to plan around the time that we can take off also. I mean, there's cases that come up, we have court,
Right.
you know, we have whatever it may be, and then, you know, hey, we can't get somebody to cover it. Well, you know, the chief has to say, you don't have to change your vacation time. I don't have anybody to cover.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the way that we operate also. I can't speak to the fire department, there are different shifts and stuff like that. But you know, every other Monday and Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, same people's gonna be working. Then they're off, so that's how it rotates.
How did we word it, Willie, when y'all were in there? I don't know if you were there or not. I think you were. How did we word it when we were going through the employee handbook? When Thomas was there and he said, it was like, did we just say
I
per
believe it was
shift?
work week.
Work week.
Because I was wanting to change it to weeks, and that just went to,
Well, and there again, I don't think we're necessarily asking, okay, well, we're only working 42 hours here, but we only get 56. That's not it. It's, our employees work 12-hour shifts, and they work 24. You know, 8-hour employees, 8 hours. So it's very difficult to compare, you know, and we're not asking for more.
Right.
And I know you guys are not saying we are, you know, it's
Right.
just, we're
just trying to figure out how to do it on our end.
Right.
Is what we're trying to do.
And then, you know, as being a small department, when somebody takes off, we have to have somebody come in
Yeah.
to work. You know, whereas with other departments, and I'm not speaking necessarily for Rainsville, other department, Fort Payne, they're a lot bigger than us, but they work 6 per shift, or 8. You know, if somebody takes off, no big deal.
Right.
We're just shorthanded. No have to come in, no vacation, extra vacation. With us, when somebody takes off, yeah, y'all are paying time and a half or something for somebody else to come in and work along with our vacation time. So, I mean, we understand it's difficult, but, you know, again, we're not asking for more. Just, you know, if our shift, 42 hours a week is what we get paid, we work 12-hour shifts, and that's kind of what we're asking. You know?
And you're asking for 42 and you're wanting 56, am I right?
We want a week off. A week, just like a 40-hour employee gets a week.
48 or
Police are needed.
Betty had,
48 will give you 8 days off, where the 8-hour employees will get 9 days off. If you jump to 3 shifts, that'd be 72, wouldn't it? So that would give you 11 days off, 72 would. So 48 will give you 8 days.
the difference, because I got Betty to work this out for me a while back, and she had said that,
I got to drop off.
the difference is like 3,000 to 6,000, and Betty always does on the high end so that we're making sure that we're covered. And I can't remember if this is just the fire department or if this is the police.
You're actually off 11 days. I had to draw that up. I mean, 72 hours gives you 2 days in front, the 3 shifts, and then 2 days at the end. Gives you actually 11 days.
Here's another thing that is kind of beside the point, but might help in the decision, is I've been working with Betty on, the fire department gets special revenue funds. And the city general picks up a lot of the fire department expenses that should technically be covered by those special revenue funds. There's an excess of $21,000 or something. So what I talked to Betty about is I don't want us to make the fire department cover more than what we're getting in, but I would like for us to discuss a percentage of those special revenue funds, almost like a deductible for the fire department. That 95% of those special revenue funds goes towards expenses that can be paid by those funds. And then from that point over, the city picks up. So that could save the city, $15,000 right there, because the fire department, like the utilities can be paid. She sent me a list and I should have printed it out. But she said for us to just, like if we agreed for that, it would just be a percentage so that we say that, and I'm just throwing this number out, I'm not saying we should do this, but 3 to 5% of the special revenue funds will always go in the fire department and stay there per year so that we're still growing the account. It's not going down, it's growing. But that more of the fire department covers utilities of the fire department, which essentially is what the revenue funds are for. So if we're saving, the general fund is, $10,000 to $15,000 off its back on the fire department, and Betty's sending me a number that just covering their vacation is anywhere from 3 to 6, that kind of helps out. It's just something to think about.
From a budgetary standpoint, it'll be a lot easier given the 2 hours to the police department than the additional 8 to the fire department. Just simply over 2 hours is not nowhere near as much as 8. And I want the fire department to have them to take a decent vacation. I personally would be more agreeable to doing a 48 to where the fire department could get an 8-day stretch. I know it's not the 9-day stretch, it's the regular 40-hour people work, but it's close. And allowing the extra 2 to the police department to get them back to where they were. And it's my understanding that the 42 hours for the police department has been in place for quite some time. It just never was quite clearly spelled out in the handbook, but
Actually, it was. And I apologize for that. It is clearly spelled out in the handbook that the police get 42 hours. That was, I completely looked over that because I was distracted by something else.
Now, if we were to move some of the liability that the general fund has to pay for some of the utilities on the fire department over to the fire fund, that would free up some revenue on the general fund side, which we could go and use to pay the additional hours on vacation and give them the 48. It might not be the full 9 days that's.
Do we not deserve the same vacation that 40-hour week people get? If we're looking to be fair, well, if you average it out, what we work a week is 2.5. If you average the whole year,
But here, okay, there's no way we can give you 9 days off the way your shifts are. There is one way of doing it, but it would decrease y'all's hours. And I don't think you'd be willing to do that. If we were to put you on a set 2 days a week shift, where you work, say, either a Monday, Wednesday, every day, and then have part-timers fill in on the weekend.
that won't work.
See, that would.
Hire lunch part-time because everybody else works rotating shifts.
Oh, I understand that, but if we were to do that, we could give you your 9 days off. That's the only way I can see feasible of getting you exact 9 days. Now, if we were to give the 72 hours, that gives y'all 11 days off. Now, you gotta look at it that way. Is that fair for the other employees? There's no clear-cut way of doing this. And I think the closest we can get is the where you could have an 8-day period off of work. We could get it to where you could get the full 9 days off, but we'd have to reorganize the shift to bring in some part-time help. And I don't know if y'all are willing to do that.
Well,
They're not going to be willing to do that, I don't think.
no.
So,
And we don't need to go down that road because we're gonna be left without a fire department.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
You know,
You're going to be a revolving door.
we've got to be competitive.
Well, which one, do we give the 11 days or do we give the 8 days? Because you're saying you want the exact 9 days and there's just no way of doing that.
No, I'm just saying, we want a week off. We want the same week off that everybody else can get. When you get a week off, you have to schedule around your short week and long week.
No, but my job's not one where I work 24-hour shifts.
We just want a week. A week is a week for whatever.
It is what we're proposing, not a week off?
It depends on the week.
Well, no, it don't. I mean, if you're working
It
3
depends on the
shifts.
week we work. It does.
Well, your vacation may be half this week and half this week. You're still gonna have an 8-day period off. Now, it may start on a Wednesday and go to the next Thursday or Friday. It may not be a calendar week. You might not be able to sit there and draw a line through it and have the exact 7 days out of the week. It may start halfway during this period and go over here to this period. There's just no feasible way to give an exact 9 days.
Can we not just, because now I thought this 26 pay period would be fine, but that puts a kink in everything that we're talking about now. Can we not just stick to our average and just the week that it falls on, they'd like to go get vacation, get the same paycheck, or is that being complicated?
No, that creates a position where you can game the system.
This is, the 26 pay period simplifies it. Simplifies the whole thing. Because it eliminates averages. It eliminates the deal we've got going on now with the police department clocking out in the middle of the shift and clocking back in on a new pay period. Now that's the same shift, the same day. It's just a different time card. 26 pay periods, I mean, it's all a literal calculation.
I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I would just like to give them a week. I wouldn't like to think that, and Joey, I'm not speaking against you, I wouldn't like to think that any of our employees would game the system because we rely on them. I would think that if they would like to get a week of vacation, they plan it and it happens to fall on a short week, they get the same paycheck as they did before. And then if they plan the next year and it happens on a heavy week, then it happens on a heavy week. Like, you know, I guess I always relate things back to my office because that's the best experience I've had. My boss is, I mean, the best boss you could ask for. He's not a micromanager. He doesn't put his thumb on anybody, but everybody does what they're supposed to because everybody respects him. And he wants everybody to be happy, but at the same time, if he makes the rules and you don't like it, you can walk out the door and go get another job. I'm not saying that, so I'm not saying that towards y'all. I'm just saying everybody respects him, so everybody does their job, and everybody loves doing their job for him and wants him to be proud of everybody. That's how I want it to be. I don't want us to think, well, the fire department's going to like get the heavy week and, you know, work the system.
As far as the days work out, I have not figured it out to 11, and I'm taking it at your word, but that's so. But as far as the police and the fire getting a little bit more vacation time than 40-hour employees, I think it's justifiable. Their jobs are more dangerous.
And I believe that too. And I think that, I don't think we can afford to give 72 hours of vacation. And that's essentially, if we do it by the week shift, I'm going to say that we'd probably wind up doing the 72 hours on a majority of the time.
See, this is what I'm confused about. When did the 72 hours come into play? Because when
I'm saying 72 hours.
No, I know,
I'm
I
saying
understand that, but when everybody came to me and was like, that's not how it's been done. It's been done on 56.
The pay is 56.
And so we're sticking to the same paycheck.
Right.
That's what I would like to do. Just stick to the same paycheck.
Yeah, but we're still going to have,
They're not going to be able to get the equivalent in off time with 48 hours. that's where 72.
But that's what me and
There's a
Holter
department
saying, it's
standard.
just a week.
Right.
Thomas has got a department standard, you can't take partial increments of vacation time.
Right.
Is that right?
That's right.
It's a shift, or are you there, or you don't get paid? Just time off. Yes.
But even though you take, go ahead. I didn't-
No,
go ahead. Even though you take, you know, we keep talking about a week, and we talk about this, but even if we gave them 56 hours, it wouldn't matter because everybody's not going to take a full week every time unless Thomas makes them take a full week every time. You know, some of them's going to take a day in the spring, and some of them's going to take a day sometime else, and then somewhere else. They're not going to take that full week every time. Nobody does. I mean, it's got to be, it can't be based on just a week.
Right.
It's got to be based on however many hours we can afford to give you. Whether it's 40 or 42 or 48, whatever it is, then you can use them however you want to use them through the year. You know,
40, 42, 56 does them no good. They can't use them all.
See, it's messed up
If
because
56,
it's
they're
minusing
gonna be
24
left
hours
over-
each
They're going to be
time.
left over with 8 hours every time because they can't step in where I'm wrong. But when they start a shift, they've got a regimen, this is in the fire department, of getting ready and getting that shift going. They don't just, and I'm sure it's similar to the police department, they don't just stop in the middle and say, I think I'll take the rest of the shift off. You're there for the whole thing, or you're not. So 56 don't do them no good. I mean, if it's going to be 56, just might as well be 48.
This shift's like 40. You get 40 hours off, then you get a shift at 16 hours. Well, I got to come to work at 11 o'clock at night to finish my shift because I ain't got it. 56 is the same way.
Well, I think
72, it does sound like a lot. I mean, I know it's like, wow. You know, it's a big number compared to 40 and 48. But their shifts are 24 hours as opposed to 12.
Well, if we give 72 hours and they can take an 11-day period off, is that fair to the other employees? Is that fair to the other employees who work 40 hours, if they only get 9 days and y'all get 11 days?
I'm not.
Well, could they not come to me and say,
Well, yeah.
I want the same thing the fire department gives?
But I'm on, and I know the answer to this question, I'm going to stand with my guys here. Are those 40-hour employees going to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, come put your house fire out, come cut you out the car?
Well, did they sign up for that job?
No,
They could sign up.
They could sign up for it and they could go and do that.
That's right.
I can tell you my job, I work 60 hours a week and I get 40. I mean, that's how my vacation is, so
I don't get it.
yeah, so I get a week and then it's
That's
based on a 40-hour week.
and where I work at, you don't get any extra if you work 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day. If your shift, whatever your shift is, at the end of the day, you get the same amount of time as that person that works exactly 40. And you don't ever get any extra hours just because you work a different shift.
But what I will go along with Willie, I'm not gonna be
Yeah.
putting myself to where I'm to
We
be
don't want
killed.
you to.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, I see the difference, I see the difference.
So there should be some added benefit
I
or
agree.
risk associated with the job.
I agree 100%.
But not everybody does it. I know some people that works at the hospital, and they work 24 hours. They work a 24-hour shift and a 16-hour shift on the weekend. They don't get any added hours. They have to they get just like everybody else, you know. And it's the same. I mean,
Well, I'm going to tell you, what it's going to end up being is you're going to get a guy coming here, you're going to pay for him to go through school, and when there's an opening somewhere else where he gets a better deal, he's gone. And you're going to have rookies in here all the time.
Yep.
That's what Fort Payne's been for years. Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. Fort Payne's making steps to correct that, and that's what Rainsville's going to become.
And you think if we don't give 72 hours instead of 48 hours, that our whole fire department's going to fall apart?
I promise you it will.
I don't.
Over 24
It happened
hours?
at Fort Payne this summer.
One other component, and this is just something I picked up, one other component though, is it's hard to compare Rainsville's fire department to a bigger department. Right, we don't need a department full of rookies, I call them rookies, or just folks with less experience. because there's no one there to pick up the slack. If it's a bigger department, and they've got a structure fire they show up to, there's 10 firefighters, and you got 2 rookies in the crowd, the veterans can pull up the slack and cover their tail, or whatever the situation is. In Rainsville, we don't have that luxury. We need everybody in tune with what's going on.
We need every
And
person
we
in the
don't
fire
need
department
folks
to come in.
learning on the job.
Just like I said, Fort Payne's got about 40 firemen, they run about 1,500 calls a year. Rainsville's got 6, well, 5 right now, 5 full-time, and we ran 700. It's easy math, workload per man, there's more here than there is at Fort Payne. I know Fort Payne's bigger. I'm just saying math-wise, there's workload here versus per man than there is there.
I still personally contend that if y'all have an 8-day period for your vacation instead of an 11-day period, it will not be detrimental to the fire department as y'all state.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion. I'm saying that. So,
Let me ask you a question. If we can pay bills according with our accountant, and, we have to be able to make payroll and pay our bills with what's coming in. But if we were to a place where we were paying 40, I'm making sure I'm understanding, 42 and 56, 42 for the police department and 56, would you not see that as a step in the right direction to try to get to a place that you would feel like we're trying to treat you fairly? Or are you just saying we want this or nothing?
well, but those extra hours do us no good. 56, those extra hours do us no good because of the way we have to take our vacation.
Okay.
The way they take their shift.
I understand. I understand that you have to take a full shift. I'm just saying, when our accountant is here to tell us, this is how much it's going to cost, and this is how much you're short in the budget already, you're not going to be able to meet this budget. You're going to have to make a cut somewhere else. You know what I'm trying to say? I'd like to say, yes, I'll vote for 72, but if she tells me we don't have the money, why am I going to spend something and go in the red if I don't have the money to pay that bill? You see what I'm saying?
But if we are able to get the special revenue funds, there's a $21,000 excess. And so if we are able to put 10 to 12, and I don't want to go on the higher end, I want to go on the lower end. If we get 10 to 12, that essentially, because I've got it right in front of me where Betty said, she just averaged it out, it's anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 for those extra hours, the 40
Now, that
hours.
was calculated on 56. That wasn't calculated on 72.
That was the difference. She told me the difference on going from cutting the hours to 40 hours.
Yeah, cut it from 56 to what they wanted to
But
do.
they were getting it in the first place. They were getting the 72. Everybody's saying 56.
You're talking 72 hours, we're only getting paid
For 56.
We're not getting paid for 72. We're just getting the same paycheck. It's a 56. Actually, I think the way it is on vacation. If you take vacation, it becomes 56. You don't get overtime, it becomes 56 straight.
That's correct.
That's correct. So it's actually less money than if we're there. The overtime, the 3 hours overtime becomes straight time.
Is there any way we can attach a caveat that says that if you take your one month, I mean, 1 year you take it on a heavy month, next year you have to take a light one?
Listen to what he's saying though. Regardless, it's costing the city for 56 hours. Technically,
It's
when
a
they take
56-hour
vacation, we're saving 3 hours of overtime. So regardless if they take it on a heavy week or not a heavy week, the money is still exactly the same.
That's correct.
Because technically, if Willie takes off, we're putting a part-time guy in there that makes quite a bit less than Willie does. Go on, Tim.
I understand that, but there is still a difference in us having to cover 3 shifts instead of having to cover 2 shifts. And that's where the rub is. There's going to be more costs associated with us for the city if a vacation period is taken during a heavy week where there is 3.
But that's what Betty told me, is how much we would be saving going and cutting the hours to 40 hours. So that's exactly the same. It's 3,000 to 6,000.
This is, And I think y'all can all understand, this is why we was wanting to do this in the budgetary meeting. So we'd have Miss Betty here to help us out. And I still contend that we need to reschedule that. And I believe that is the proper format for us to tackle that, to where we have the facts and figures in front of us. Because, you know, last thing we want to do is spend more than we're bringing in. We just can't do that.
Well, look, at some point in time, the employees, the fire department, the police department, it has to be a priority. It has to be looked at. And I understand that y'all's job is to run the city. But in running that city, the public safety has to be taken into consideration. And public safety and 40-hour people, like the mayor said, it's hard to get on the same level.
And I think what you're seeing is that we're more worried about what the cost of this is going to be associated with. And that's why we're wanting to do this in conjunction with a budgetary meeting, so that we are well aware of what the price of this is. And it's, we just don't want to do anything that would jeopardize the financial standing of this community. Now, we wanted to make sure that we have the utmost fire and police protection, and we want to do everything to support our fire and police officers. And we think the world of them. And we want to give you everything that we can. We just can't give you more than what we have. And that's what my biggest fear is.
Going to 48 for police and 72 for fire is going, it's really not an increase. It's going back to what's been budgeted in. You understand that?
It was already budgeted in.
It's already budgeted in. This is not more money.
42 for the police budget.
Well, we're talking about an average. We're talking about their wages. We're talking about 42 is the average on their wages. We're talking about vacation time. 48 for police and 72 for fire. There's already internal restrictions in place that make them take that whole shift increment. That money's already budgeted in there. So another budget workshop's fine. That's fine. But what we're going to find is that it's already, that perceived increase is already in the budget.
Let's hear it, Sandy. We ain't heard from you yet.
Well, I've been sitting back here thinking about all this together. Why not just give them the 72 hours? You're gonna pay them 56 for a week. They're gonna take 72 hours off. The cost is gonna be in whoever comes in to fill their spot for that extra time, right?
Correct.
That's on cost, but you're not really actually paying them 72 hours.
Exactly.
You're just gonna give them 72 hours, but you're just gonna pay them 56.
Exactly.
And then that'll just be something Thomas has to keep up with. So the problem is the cost to replace them on their shift. Is that it?
And that's
We're
why
not going to replace Willie with somebody's Willie's salary when he's on vacation.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's been sounding kind of like the cost is 72-hour cost is what's killing us. But it's replacing whoever for.
With a part-time person that earns, I mean, we're talking, okay, let's just take an example here. Close to $2 an hour less. And that's
What I'm just saying is if Willie takes off 72 hours, he gets paid for 56 hours, it's not costing us anything else. Just the 56 hours that he would've got paid if he'd worked anyway.
Exactly.
just a part-time person can come in.
So what's the deal now? Why are we,
Well, 50, hopefully 56 is going to be a thing of the past. We go to 26 pay periods, and it's all literal. No more averages. Still the same kind of thinking.
But still, they
the
don't-
same-
they
But
don't
it's still should be the same out of the pocket at the end of the
Same out of
day.
pocket, yeah. But what I'm saying is, I guess I'm trying to.
the thing is how they,
As long
how
as
they
you
take
do,
their hours off, not how they're gonna get paid for it.
and I agree with Sandy on that, but where you gain it at is if you don't take it in a week, then you don't get the 56. If you take it shift, and shift spaced out, then you get 72 hours instead of these guys that takes it in a week, it's 56.
But they still get paid the same paycheck.
Yeah, it don't matter. It's the same thing, but
It's the
you
same
know,
thing.
you kind of gain it a little bit, I guess.
There won't,
I can see that too.
if there's 26 pay periods, 56 is a number of the past.
It comes down to we give 72 hours of vacation or 48.
Yeah.
And I have a hard problem giving 72 hours of vacation time. It seems, to me, it does seem excessive.
Well, we could do it like Albertville does it. Do the 48 hours and then Debbie gets to take 16 hours because you essentially take out, you're not paying for the sleeping time. So you're taking 48 hours, we give them 48 hours, and then we subtract 16 hours each time they take a shift. Because you're not paying for it.
You just put that on paper. I mean, it just looks better on
I'm
paper.
just trying to
You're trying to
help
satisfy
numbers
Shelley.
here, and you're closing your eyes. Work with me.
It's getting more complicated.
I'm trying to help Joey.
And Debbie's and Judy, just to extend, and the fire chief, they're gonna have to work with that. You
I
know.
know, that's why I smiled back there when I said that.
70, yeah, 70, it's true, 72 jumps out at you.
It does.
You just,
I can live with
there's no
48.
way that can equate, but the shift is longer.
But they have to work 72 hours.
If you want us to back down and work for 48 hours,
I mean, 48 hours, if our 48 hours up in your house on fire, pack up and go to the house.
And I think that's a little bit of a stretch, and I think that's uncalled for.
Well, I mean, I'm just.
It's the truth.
It's the truth.
No, it's not. None of our first responders are going to just belly up and quit in a case of emergency.
exactly.
And that's not.
And that's why they ought to be
And that's
paid
something
different.
that you're considering.
Well, and it is considered, but I just didn't like that approach of that question, and I thought that was a little insensitive.
I mean, I just think the police needs to be paid different, fire department needs to be paid different. It's a different type of job. It's completely different than somebody that's picking up a dead dog. I mean, there's a lot of different ways. I mean, me, I have no problem with it. Well, I'm gonna get a phone call from him tonight, so I figure out if we can get to that.
Communications and police would have to be on the same. And fire would be, different. There's no other department that works, 24-hour shift.
How do we amend the handbook?
It'll have to be through an ordinance.
Well, that's how we did it, rather than a resolution,
That's right.
correct?
But this is the section that we knew was going to have to be addressed, so.
Are we settled on 48 and 73?
I'm not.
Settled?
If it's budgeted in,
Yes.
Is it gonna be, and this is just a question, I've gotta get this cleared up in my mind. If you're gonna use 72 going forward, say the first 3 years, then is it gonna be 72 forever, like, in year 4, is it gonna be 72 twice?
The second
So-
tier would be 144,
Yeah,
because it'd be 2 weeks.
it'd be 2 weeks.
And then the third tier would be 2.5. So that'd be 175. Is that right? No.
We get what you're saying.
So when you,
That's 175, right?
and I'm just trying to get to thinking about that. When you get out there to 72, and you get out to, and none of these guys are close to that, but they'll probably stay here. Hopefully, they'll stay here for a long time, and everybody will be happy and all that.
Well, after
But
the
when you,
night.
well, yeah. And I'm just trying to think about in the future, when you get out to, let's say you get out there to the third year, the third step. So you're getting, how many hours is that?
It'd be 2.5 weeks.
So that would be,
144 is 2 weeks, and then plus a half after 72. 36.
180 hours.
so now you're receiving,
For 2.5 weeks, it's
you'd be
180 hours.
off, right at 30 days.
You could do.
But I want our employees
You took it off.
Oh,
to
I
be like,
understand. But I'm just trying to, I'm just wanting to make sure that we think about what we're doing going in the future.
Yeah.
You know, they work, how many days y'all work a year?
How many days we work a year, it'd be,
110? Does that sound right?
126.
the hours are crazy, it's like 2,000 and something hours.
Yeah.
126, I believe.
But it's
It's nearly 1,000 hours more.
yes.
Well, if you
29, about 29 hours a year.
if you take 365 divided by 3, that gives you the, how many days a
Roughly,
week?
yeah, roughly, so many days.
So when you get to that third tier,
121.66.
when you get to that third tier, you're off 30 days out of that year. So at that point, we're paying a part-time to come in and work that shift for 30 days. Is that right? I mean, I just want to make sure everybody understands what I'm talking about. Okay. So, I mean, that's what, I mean, it's quite a few days.
Yeah. Hopefully down the road though, as these people, as these guys stay on longer and they move into those different tiers of more vacation and more benefits in general, the fire department is closer to the industry standard on minimum staffing. And if that's the case, the department can absorb some of that.
It's like now, if there were 3 guys to the shift, on every shift, 12 5, or 9 5, then you left your minimum staffing at 2, somebody took vacation or somebody took sick time, then you still got 2 people there, and you're not paying anybody overtime or part-time or anything else to cover that shift.
But right now, we're tight on the budget, so with it moving forward, it just works better that we just fill in with part-time as we go along. And that's just a future goal
Yeah.
that we're having.
Yeah, there's no choice.
Right.
There's no choice.
If we had extra firefighters, could we use the Kelly Day to offset that overtime to help towards that too? I mean, I don't understand all about the Kelly Day.
I know enough to be real dangerous about that.
One of y'all work at Fort Payne? Okay.
21.
I mean, would the Kelly Day fit into where we didn't pay overtime? Like now we're paying 3 hours overtime every pay period? Or would that be something that would just help toward, because it seems like you get a day off or something that Kelly does. I just know enough about it to be nice to you.
Yeah. I worked in the Kelly Days, and Fort Payne used to get a Kelly Day one every night.
We have PTO days now, I don't have kids anymore. So we don't, we used to get paid for a kid a day, just like you were there. Now it's just earned time off, we don't get paid.
So in other words, you bill vacation time for your extra day. I mean, that you just bill the day alone. Like
Right.
that.
And you don't get paid for it.
Yeah. So you get extra time off.
But they absorb it, so they don't have to pay anybody to come in. Where here, you would. You still be paying somebody to come in.
Okay, then.
And a week's vacation in Fort Payne is 72 hours.
Is it 72 hours every tier?
Yes.
Or does it drop 72 to 56 or 48 or something like that?
1 week is 72 hours. That's what you come in making as a rookie when you're done with the prep school. You get, I believe it's a week, maybe 24 hours, maybe one day. But a week is 72 hours, regardless of where you are. Somebody, I get 2 weeks, somebody above me gets 4 weeks, and those weeks are 72 hours apiece.
And I don't want, let me just say this out loud. I'm proud that we've all discussed and everybody's put their opinion, and I don't, either way this goes, I don't want this to make any of the council members, either which way, for this to split or divide or hurt feelings. Like, this is a touchy subject, and we've all talked about it, and whichever way it goes, whoever loses will win the next time. You know, I don't want the council to be divided over something like
I don't
this.
think it can be. I mean, we don't agree with everything that's done from everybody anyway. So,
No.
I mean, that's why there's several of us sitting here.
Well, it's not a win or lose, I mean, it's a,
Well, you're gonna win some and you're gonna lose some.
but I'm saying this argument is not a
Right.
win-lose deal, it's a, how can we get this department on its way to, yeah, and growing into something that needs to be, but doing that within our means.
And if it's done budgeted, would be crazy not to fight for it to go against it.
Right.
At the risk of making the police and the fire department people take care of everything throughout the city if there are a problem.
Yeah.
There's no way I would be for it.
Yeah, okay. So, since the handbook is in ordinance form, y'all be ready to vote on it at the next meeting? Okay. We finally got through all my items on the agenda. Joe?
We have nothing to spend money on at the sewer department. Did pass out a sewer report for y'all's review. That's about all I have for this meeting.
The Arbor Day went off very well Saturday. I think she gave out, the group gave out over 2,000 trees. Some of you were there planting some, and we appreciate all of that. Can you bring us up to speed on the Coliseum signing and the insurance and all that kind of stuff? Where we are?
Nothing's changed.
Well, how much are we going to end up paying insurance on that if they don't? I mean, somebody's had a meeting with them lately, and I'm just curious. I mean, they're ready to take ownership, and we're fixing to spend over.
We already did. It was due in February.
We've already paid the insurance?
I don't know if we've already paid it, but it was due in February. It's what?
it's more.
Has
The
the
email
insurance
that I
been
have
paid on
says
this
February.
Coliseum for this year?
I think it has been.
And how much was it?
I don't remember.
I'll tell you right
56?
now.
I don't know on the Coliseum. in
It's
particular.
$11,000 and some change. Hold on.
I just know total bill.
Amico lets us pay that in March, April, and May.
3
Just
payments, yeah.
three monthly payments.
So it's about
So we could take it, if we get this thing resolved, we'd take it off the back end, I'm sure.
What's the possibility of resolving it? I mean, that's a substantial amount of money we could use for something else.
It is, and Joey and I talked about going to see the superintendent to try to resolve that, and I've had a busy couple of weeks, but we will, if it's agreeable with him, we will do that over the next week or two.
I think send us letters. If you're busy, it might be the best way to do it.
Well, yeah, the problem, is that
About midnight.
We don't have to discuss it.
it's Collins, yeah, I just couldn't, I still think a meeting, a face-to-face meeting is our best bet.
We have to do it.
The problem with the letters is it calls for partial payment.
It's $11,214. And it goes up 3% every year. Was that the fee for this year, or is that the fee for last year?
Judy would know by us. I don't know.
So it's 3% on the $11,214.
So it's about 400 more.
Please.
The other thing is, we were talking about the handbook earlier. I believe that we said we would be talking about job descriptions. Have we got any, I've got Chief Center's a job description. I was wondering if the other Chief Center, Chief Ridgway, Who else are we going to put job descriptions for everyone or just for the department heads?
I have all of them. When I was doing the handbook, I have all of the department heads, and I believe we need to do it by titles. You know, we had said originally that the way we need to do it in our pay scale is we have captain, and we've got two spots for the captain, and then we should have a job description to go with captain.
Okay.
And then firefighters, we've got so many slots for the firefighters, and then we should have a job description for the firefighter. You know what I'm saying?
Can we start, like with department heads, job descriptions, and look at those, and then bring those and pass those by ordinance, get them in the handbook, and then we move forward and come down the scale for after department heads would be.
Alan, did you send me one? I'm trying to remember if you did. Okay, I have all of the department heads. So if they're comfortable with what they gave me, then we can just make it look pretty and bring it.
If you could
here.
send those to everyone and we could look at them, we might could adopt those at the next meeting as well. If we're going to make changes to the handbook with vacation pay, we can make changes to the handbook
Do
with
it at the same time.
department heads, job descriptions. I think that's all I have.
Okay, I'm gonna go quick. I promise I'm gonna go quick.
Here we go.
Just to let y'all know that the library board, we're updating our policies and procedures just to keep up with all the laws that's around. So they've asked Dara attended our last meeting, so we're working with Dara on that. The garden club is busy working with the library board, and they're doing our landscaping, and that's kind of their little baby that they've taken, which they've had that, but there's some work that's needed to be done at the library, and so the street department has helped us with that as well, but the garden club has really taken that on. I would like to adopt, and I don't know what the proper way is to do this, with the fire department getting this grant. It only funds, for 4 years. I want it documented with the hire paperwork that the person being hired is well aware that they're under a grant position. Whether the city can fund it after those 4 years or whether they can't, they're well aware that they are putting in their notice with their other job and chancing it that they may not have a job after 4 years. They may not. So I would feel better that it's one piece of paper just saying, I just think that covers the city's liability. It makes sure that that person, that's their livelihood. I don't want anybody doing their job not being, understanding what exactly is going on. So, can I just pass this in the minutes, or is there a different way that I need to adopt this form with the hire paperwork? Judy? Okay, so I'll make here, I want everybody to look at it. It's simple. It just pretty much gives a name, it says that they're aware that it's a grant position. Well, is it specifically to the fire department?
It's revenue funded position.
Yeah, it's
grant funded.
It's generic. So any other
We did the
positions
same
in the
thing in the
city?
Board of Education. If we get a grant, they're only hired as long as the grant is there. When the grant runs out, they may or may not get moved into another position that's funded by the state or local. Any grant position.
Anything that's funded by a grant.
Okay, so does anybody have any issues with this or questions? That is actually the form we use at our office. Dara did not put it together. I figured that, since my office put it together, it would be okay. But, so Debbie just changed it to be for Rainsville. Okay, so I'll make a motion to adopt the revenue funded position acknowledgement form to be attached to the hire paperwork.
For any grant funded position.
For any grant funded position.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion by Ledbetter to accept the grant hire form. Second by Graham. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries.
There are some positions that we have fixed in the city and have to fix in the city that are not in accordance, that have not been set up appropriately, should I say. Mike Brown is a part-time janitor for the Tom Bevel Center and does a very good job. Everybody I've spoke to, high ratings. He's the one that comes in and cleans after all the events. He sets up for court, he unsets for court, I mean, just everything. Gets there late on a Saturday evening if somebody's coming on a Sunday. I mean, just has been a really good city employee, and it's people like him that normally we don't even recognize, but does so much that he goes out, you know, late and works. So I would like to make Mike Brown a full-time janitor with the city, because the way it has been set up with the Tom Bevel Center and with him being a part-time employee, it is appropriate that the city makes this change. In fact, it is mandatory, if I use that word correctly, that we make that change for that. It will up the city on his, let me see. If he elects to do family insurance, I wrote down the higher end, this will be $21,799. That sounds like a lot, but we have a contract cleaning position that is not set up appropriately. We as a council need to decide what avenue we're going to take that part-time. We have all discussed this, everybody needs to say their opinion, whether we're going to offer that as a part-time position with the city or whether we are going to cut that contract position completely. That contract position is $11,700. The Tom Bevel Board has a meeting Sunday afternoon, and me and Joe have spoken, and we feel like, we have not voted on this, so I might be speaking out of turn, but I'm just throwing this out there, that it has been talked about where mandatory cleaning is probably somewhere we're going to have to go. There have been times where we have not charged for an event because they wanted to clean, and Mike has come in and cleaned and not gotten paid for it. So it's inappropriate, in my opinion. This is why it's necessary that he becomes full-time. He's completely under us. In my opinion, I feel like he could clean the city buildings and take on all of that, set his hours appropriately where he can get everything done, and set a certain amount of hours over what events he has to clean up after. And then that way the city's out of liability, and that fixes that cleaning position. So if anybody wants to discuss that, on what direction we want to go, I mean, it has to be fixed.
I'll go first. I know Mr. Brown does a good job for the Bevel Center, and talked with some folks that have bragged on him, and he does. He goes, he'll go up there late at night and clean, and he does a good job with the Bevel Center. But for budgetary reasons, you know, I'm opposed to taking on a full-time custodian. I think if you're looking at the bottom line, it's cheaper to contract the cleaning out.
Well, then we need to bid it out.
And it's not anything against Mr. Brown, nothing at all. But I'm looking at that Bevel Center budget and the increase in the payroll for that. We, counting him and two others, we got 3 part-time employees at the Bevel Center. This would move us to 1 full-time and 2 part-time. And I think that's excessive.
Well, technically, it wouldn't be a Tom Bevel employee, it would be a city employee under, I guess, City Hall doing the cleaning, if we want a backup. But regardless, if we're going towards contract, we need to start we have to bid it out, because the other is not set up correctly.
Well,
And
City Hall pays.
it's under the general fund. Regardless, wherever he is, he's gonna be paid by the city money. So wherever you put him, buildings still need to be cleaned.
think what you're trying to say is either we have a contract for cleaning, or we have an employee that cleans all of it. Basically is what we're doing. If we're gonna have a contract, we have to do it the legal way, where it's put out for a bid and someone has to be bonded. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
So we're either gonna hire an employee and do all the cleaning, or we're gonna bid it out according to the state bid.
If we can't bid it out, we're supposed to file the contract with the Ethics Commission within 10 days. These are some ethics rules that they put on the Alabama League of Municipality website. I printed those out. You can look at them. Just-
I have no problem with bidding it out. Bidding it out's cheaper. Like I said, it's nothing against Mr. Brown.
So are you saying keep Mr. Brown as part-time cleaning at the Tom Bevel Center, and then as far as the city buildings, bidding it out to a cleaning company?
Well, the issue with the Bevel Center and the cleaning there, now I could be wrong on this. This is just me looking at it from an outside perspective. But there's cleaning that has to be done in odd hours to accommodate multiple events on a given day. That could be difficult to coordinate with a contractor. Now, cleaning City Hall, library, those could be scheduled things, sometime every week or sometime every other week. Bevel Center would have been an event center. It's a little more complicated. You might find somebody that you contracted out to, and they can form their schedule according to the schedule of events. But I can see where there could be some issue.
Well, I don't want Mike Brown's Luce's job, the part-time job.
I don't want them to either.
So as far as setting, the thing is that once we make this appropriate for when we make it mandatory cleaning, he might not be part-time.
What are you talking about?
The hours may be in excess of 19 hours. So that's what I'm saying is, once we make him the full-time employee that does everything within 40 hours and he's responsible for it all, I really don't think we're gonna end up saving that much bidding it out unless someone comes in real cheap,
Well, it's getting done real cheap right now.
inappropriately.
I think we need to go into executive session while we talk about that.
Sounds like a good, I think that's probably appropriate.
That's not on my agenda, but I'm gonna recommend that whenever it gets to mine. Because there need to be some
I agree.
stuff voiced on that.
Is there a legitimate reason to go into executive session?
Name and character of employee. Or I'll make it names, a little bit more than one.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next one. This is just something that I wanted to throw out that, who was it? Was I talking to you about it, I think? Is that when we have a position with the city that opens up, I'd like for us to post that on our webpage. Do we do that? We don't. I think that's a good idea. I think we should have, when positions are available in any department, that we have it posted on our webpage so that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can apply for it. I think that's a good thing.
Can I say something about that?
Sure.
If, another thing I'd like to see us do, and this is something we have talked about in previous years, is giving the employees that we have the opportunity to change from one department to the other. By like a job coming open, you might have, and I'll just use this one, Alan's, the one he had the other day. If we had an employee, and I'll use, what's your name? I can't remember.
Cody.
Cody. Use Cody. If Cody decided he wanted to be in, get trained up to be a great operator or whatever, then he would have the opportunity to sign that job and maybe move around in the city. And you might have some of the very best employees, and they may want to move around into different departments to pick up a different job or learn about something new. So I think that needs to be in the handbook, that we post a job inside the city first before we go outside the city to find something.
And that's really, pretty average.
Yeah, most everybody does that.
Yeah.
That's just something I'd like to see too. And that's something that we can work on going
Maybe like
forward. But then-
2-week internal posting and then a 2-week external posting and then, like I said, if.
Yeah, if nobody inside the city says has interest in it, then if somebody inside the city, then we look at them and go from there.
So can we do that with the ordinance adoption into our, can we just we need to add that
So we need
in?
to do that next
We need to add that
time.
to our ordinance.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's something to think about. It don't have to be, we don't have any jobs except for the firemen. You know.
Wastewater?
Yeah.
Wastewater.
You got those with wastewater? Okay.
It's just you and,
Me and Ryan.
yeah, you're right, that's it.
But I, that would be
If we're
good.
gonna make that policy, it should be in the handbook, and let's add it by ordinance and add it to the handbook, and then we're keeping everything above board.
Everything's clear. I need to make a position, and I'm in a bit of a tight spot, and I've spoken to a couple of you about this. We got the fire department grant, and it funds for additional firefighters that will go according to our pay scale, and we have a position that is a recruiting position. This is 100% paid for by the grant. I mean, the salary, the taxes, the benefits, there is no cost to the city on this grant. It was awesome free money. The problem is that the pay scale that was sent to me has not been approved by the city. I do not necessarily agree with the pay scale. And we have a gentleman that I believe has already filled out the paperwork, correct?
For the grant.
For that position, the recruiter. So number one, I'd like to say that, and I don't know if I need to make this into a motion, but from here on out, nobody fills out hire paperwork, and this is nobody's fault. I'm not putting this on anybody, but for us to be safe as a city, nobody fills out hire paperwork, nobody puts in their notice until we've got the minutes to attach to that hire paperwork on what they're getting hired for and what their pay is. It's just safer that way, I believe. I may be the minority in this decision, but
What's the issue with pay?
it is way more than what our pay scale is. Plus, it's not set up, and it's not set up right here with the position. It hasn't gone through the council.
Is it in accordance with the grant application? The pay?
Yes, but I have contacted FEMA, and they said they went by our pay scale.
Yeah.
This is not our pay scale.
But I mean, if it was on the grant application, we submitted to them what the position would pay in accordance with.
Who made that decision?
I mean, I didn't handle the paperwork. That was Big Thomas and the grant writer, I suppose.
And neither one have the authority to set that pay.
Are they going by the pay scale?
If we went by the pay scale, this individual would either be, really, we don't have this position set up, so there is no pay scale to it. If everybody is in agreement with paying this individual this amount of money, then we move forward and it's no problem. But it did not come through the council. And so I want open discussion on this because it sets up also for a 3% raise every year. Now, I agree with us requesting for a 3% raise every year for this individual because if we are able to give all our employees a 3% raise and we only ask for a 1% raise, then that individual couldn't get a 3% raise. However, I am not going to give all of our employees a 1% raise and one person a 3% raise. I don't feel like that's fair. Even though it's funded with the grant, I understand that, but at the same time, it's still a city employee, and I still feel like they need to fall under the city rules, the city policies, and it just needs to be set up the same way.
So basically what you're saying is, number one, we have to create the position.
Yes,
Number two, we have to set the pay.
yes.
It
Just like
doesn't
we-
matter what the grant amount is.
That's how much the grant covers. That's how much the grant reimburses us, correct? So we have to go on the higher end for as much they'll give us because that way we get all the money back.
Now, the pay rate was based off of the pay scale. I mean, that was
It can't be based off the pay scale if we don't have a position that says recruiter.
Well, the council approved the submission of the application. That grant application could have never been submitted.
That
This
is,
governing body didn't approve it.
okay, and that is correct. That is completely correct. So I guess the next time I will go through and make sure that every number on there is correct, because this position, do we set the position before we even get the grant? But I mean, if we go by the firefighters' pay, what they've done is they've taken the firefighters' annual pay for working 56 hours a week, 53 hours regular, 3 hours overtime, and they've made it into a 40-hour week. This person would end up making just under our fire chief. I'm not gonna sit here when my librarian makes quite a bit less than that and promote a newbie coming in, and I'm not
But
saying,
you're talking about federal dollars that's got strings attached that say this person can't fit into the shift. It essentially creates an admin position.
I understand, and we set the pay scale for that admin. I'm not saying they'd be a firefighter, I'm just saying, if you would go by, the only thing you could go by is this schedule right here. And I don't see how they can make that much.
Do we have the authority to set the pay and the pay scale today?
But this is the problem. We've got a person, has he already left his job?
I think so.
We've got an individual that
When did we
is,
get the grant? I mean, were we told about the grant that I missed? Did I miss
It
that?
was told at
Last council
meeting.
Okay.
I don't know the actual day we got it, and the clock started ticking on being, the department being fully staffed and this position filled, in order for the rest of the grant to proceed. The clock started ticking February 14th.
and so how this started was when I got the numbers from our,
Talk about this in executive session. Can we talk about this in?
okay, if you feel it appropriate, then yes.
Is that okay?
I wondered for what purpose?
I don't know if this would be subject to executive session, because we were discussing not an individual per se, but an individual position in the, on the pay scale and the associated pay with, I could be wrong. I've been there before.
And I think this grant is based off of what was presented to them as a pay scale, which I see what Melissa's talking about. That position is not on the pay scale, and it was brought up, I mean, it was sent to them, based off of an annual and then divided back into the 40 hours. And I think that's where it came from. Am I right? So that's the reason the overall grant is a certain amount based off of that. So it kind of puts you on.
I mean, I didn't understand, and I wanted the paperwork, because if I'm gonna walk in here and vote and make a position and set the pay scale, I want the backup, and I don't want someone sitting there explaining it to me. I want the paperwork that I can be like, this is how I got the numbers. And I had to call FEMA to get that, and he specifically said it was the numbers that were put into the grant, which that's fine. That's fine that the numbers are put into the grant. It's the fact that now we've got a pay scale that the council didn't decide on.
Are we arbitrarily handcuffed by that being put into the grant? Or do we still have the authority over all the city finances that the Alabama State Code gives us?
I agree. I think this is headed into a direction where we need to go into executive session.
See, I told you I've been wrong before.
And I mean, I know we don't have to, but I think this falls under name and character.
So what's the issue again?
This individual is getting hired at $33,000, he ends up making 16 something an hour. It's right under, I should have wrote it down. It's right under the fire chief. And
100% funded by federal dollars.
yes, that still goes by our pay scale.
Right.
Nobody at this table approved that pay scale.
But that figure was based on that application. And that, when that, they're going on what was given to them.
FEMA was going by what Rainsville gave to them.
Right.
That pay scale is not on here. That pay scale has not been set up because I specifically said, do you guys set the pay scale? No, ma'am. This is from your pay scale. Well, what if the position hasn't been created yet? Well, a pay scale was set to that position.
Well, no one has this position once they get the grant awarded to them. But does it come out, does that hourly rate come out to the same hourly rate that's on the pay scale?
No.
It's more.
It's like 16,
40 hours a week. 16
27,
is-
16, 27.
yeah, 1627. I just want to stay fair across the
4 hours
board.
an hour? More, is it like $4 an hour more or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, if we even set him at the highest captain spot, that's $4 an hour more that he's making per hour.
Okay. So the rate that the grant approved at 40 hours a week, and the rate of a fireman at the average that we go by now, 56 hours a week, are those amounts equal?
Yes. This is a 40-hour, our firemen would go by hourly rate.
That's right.
So this individual needs to go by hourly rate at a pay scale that the council sets. And hey, if the council and the majority goes for this amount, then so be it, but I don't see how we can set this position apart so much in accordance to our pay scale.
Well, it's an admin job, because it can't fit into the shift schedule.
It's fine, but we still have not set up the pay scale is what I'm saying. The council did not discuss this, and if the council agrees that this is fine pay with it and we move forward, then we move forward. But I'm just explaining how it was presented to me and what we put in front of us. Can I get some feedback from the rest of the council?
Are you guys opposed to?
I mean, I see that we're handcuffed with this. I mean, we got a guy that's gonna quit his job, that's took this job for this set pay. I think they've got us, I mean, by that, but I think it needs to be stated somewhere else that a department head can't set this position. We can't set this salary for this right here without it coming off this table.
I don't necessarily like the precedent that's being set, though.
State law says we set the pay scale, we have the purse strings, this council. We did not set the purse strings to this budget, to this position. That's the problem. The thing that was turned in was a 56-hour work week. They changed it to a 40-hour work week, which makes the hourly rate increase by a substantial amount. So we have to go back and visit the thing. First of all, we have to create the position, and second of all, we have to set the pay, which we have not done.
Starting base pay is $33,839 for 40 hours. 3% increase for 4 years.
So are we gonna reject the grant? Or not?
We're not rejecting the grant. That's not what I'm saying at all. When you have excess funds at the end of the 4 years, you return that money. And I'm not, and I don't know. I want everybody's thoughts and opinions. I don't know what to do. This has made me sick in my stomach all weekend because this was not done correctly. And now we have a gentleman that has given up a very stable job. That's his livelihood.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see that you can do anything about this since he's done hired, but I would make it well noted that a department head would not have the capability of doing that.
How can he be already hired from a position that has never been approved?
He's gonna argue. He's fine.
He sent,
He's filled out his paperwork and he's quit his job and we hadn't hired him. That's where the rub is. He was told an amount of money he's gonna make that we didn't approve. There's the other rub.
and I
So is
understand the
that
grant.
someone's good name and character? Yeah, I guess it is, but, we're either gonna have to create a position and we're gonna have to set and pay for it. before we move forward, before he ever works a day for the city of Rainsville.
I mean, this, you've got on one side where you're not just dealing with names and numbers, you're dealing with the man that's taking care of his family. And then on the other end, you've got where someone violated policy and procedure.
Is there
I mean,
any recourse for violating?
Well, let's not, I think we just need to go into executive session because this is getting very heavy. And we're going into dangerous grounds. And we're on a 90-day crunch, so this needs to be figured out. So can I make a motion to go into executive session, or y'all got something else? Can y'all tell that I was off last time?
No, not really. We don't have anything to spend money on.
I don't have anything to spend money on. They've let me spend a good bit in the last few weeks on the park and rec. And I would like, if any of y'all wants to see these pictures of the new playground up here at the sports complex, it is a great playground. And this weekend, we've had a bunch of kids playing on it. They've had a ball.
Yesterday, watching the practice live,
Did you?
that was a crowd.
Oh, yeah, they've had a ball. And there's some videos flying around of some of the, I won't say who, but Sammy. It's been on the zip line, so anyway. But anyway, these pictures are right here. I'll let y'all have them. If everybody look at anybody who wants to, they're right here. So everything's going real good at the complex. We've had sign-ups. We're fixing to start playing balls. We got our first ball game up there tomorrow night. If it don't snow it out or something. So anyway, that's all I
Make a motion to pay the bills and accounts.
I second it.
Motion by Cole to pay the monthly bill, second by Graham. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session.
I second.
Y'all can't go into executive session. Neither one of those reasons are valid. I mean, you're not discussing this one particular guy that y'all hired. Y'all are discussing setting a pay scale and approving a new position. And on the other one, you're talking about going from a part-time to a full-time position. Neither one of those things qualify for executive session.
One of the names is a lady that's done presently working for the city whose husband is doing something there, and her name will be addressed in it in executive session, so I think it does stand grounds to go there.
And the other one is talking about policy and procedures and how a department head handled the situation.
Well, if you're talking about the department head, how they handled it, you can go into executive session, but you can't go into executive session to discuss.
Sir, at this point, you're out of order, and we are taking our right to go into executive session as one of the 9 reasons to go in, and we are going to do executive session.
Okay, I'll have my papers attorney give y'all a call in the morning.
What is your name, sir?
Huck.
Huck.
From the Times Journal.
Okay.
Motion on the table is to go into executive session. Did not state the reason why.
For the name and character of an employee.
Technically, didn't have. Motion by Freeman to go into executive session to protect the good name and character of a current employee. Second by Linda. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries.